Hello and welcome to Building Tomorrow's Insurer, where we explore the cutting edge of InsurTech and digital innovation in the insurance industry. I'm your host, Nigel Fellowes-Freeman, and today we are diving into the crucial topic of cultivating the right corporate culture for innovation in insurance. It's something that many of us struggle with, and many of the executives I speak to on a daily basis are all really working hard at this. And so I could not be more excited for Maria DeOrueta to, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, who is the General Manager at SGUA and Property Insurance Plus. We had a conversation a few weeks ago. Maria gave me such great insight into this topic. And so, yeah, I'm so grateful in you sharing some time with us this afternoon. I'm really looking forward to you sharing with us and with our audience how we can start to drive change, how we can kind of really foster this culture of innovation in organizations. And I know this is an episode that people will not want to miss. And so maybe without further ado, let's get started.
Thank you, Nigel. I'm really happy to be here. Very grateful for the opportunity as well to share my insights.
Absolute pleasure. I think I love to start these sessions off with understanding a little bit about you. I think that kind of is a really nice place to start the story. And so could you share maybe a little around how you got into insurance? I think sometimes your younger years are always a formative in kind of what you then create and lead into. And so can you give us a sense of what were you like as a young person, and then how did you kind of form and find your way into insurance?
I think I've always been a very curious person, seem always willing to try new things. Insurance for me was very similar to how it was for my majority of the people that work in insurance. At the time, I knew nothing about insurance. I was just looking for an admin role. I was in my 20s. I got offered a role working for a large insurance company. And I really liked the view of the office, if I'm quite honest. So I was sold from that moment. That's how much I knew about insurance. And then slowly, I started to build a career out of it. I really fell in love with the industry. I've been quite lucky that I've always worked with companies who have this very family and collaborative environment. And I think that's something that really caught my attention, and something that I was really connected to because of my background as well. I come from, South America. The things that I really value is the whole idea of belonging and, being with other people and being in an environment where I feel that I can be myself. So I think that was something at the beginning that really attracted me. And then slowly, you start building your knowledge, and then you get to know more. And then I move into different roles. So I went kind of from an admin role to an underwriting role, then to another underwriting role, and then moving to a relationship management for a different company. I moved from Sydney to WA to help them set up the office here in WA. I look after WA in South Australia. So kind of my role was progressing into different areas all the time. And I think it's because the way that I like to do things, I like to try new things, even if they scare me. The way that I live my life is you never know, you just give it a go and see what happens. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? So yeah, and I've been quite lucky to be part of this industry, an industry that is really close to my heart. I've been working in insurance for the last 18 years now, so it's almost a lifetime. And, in this industry, you get to know everyone. People move around to different companies, and it almost feels like a family wherever you go. And those are the values that are really close to my heart.
Yeah, that's so great. It's and you get such a great experience in working in lots of different roles within an agency, I think. And so when I know we're going to talk a huge amount today about culture and how that drives innovation. But I think being able to impact that, understanding all the different roles, what the expectations are and what the responsibilities are of those different roles within an organization, I think really would empower you to then know how to then structure organizations and how to kind of motivate people in the right way. And maybe that's a really nice segue for us to really kind of dive into that first little part of around culture. And there are, I think, really large parts of our society that are underinsured, both from a kind of financial sense as well as a, I guess, societal sense. And I think that really does leave a huge opportunity. It's obviously, it's unfortunate because it's something that I think that kind of that insurance gap is growing, but it is an opportunity for insurers to act on. I think the there's an opportunity for insurers to do a really good job and close that insurance gap. But I'd love to hear maybe how some of your insights of how insurers can continue to work towards building kind of more flexible, more intuitive, more kind of customer-friendly products and experiences, because obviously you work through a bunch of different organizations that I'm sure have taken lots of different approaches to this.
Yeah, what I'm seeing in the business at the moment is that things are moving a lot faster, and our clients are demanding change a lot faster as well. So they're not just happy with the policy wording that they have today; they want more out of it. I think education, plays a big role in this. I think a lot of people could be uninsured or underinsured because they don't have the knowledge. So I think as a society or people like us that work in insurance, we have a responsibility to provide the knowledge. We need to provide the knowledge through, whether it's through seminars, whether it's through webinars, whatever it is, to make them aware of what can happen if things go wrong. In terms of the way that we deal internally with that is we come across a lot of properties that are severely underinsured. So we do have, building calculators built into our systems so that when people put their property there, like they will have an accurate figure of what they should be insuring for. Because we want to make sure that there's not a gap, and they like a lot of people don't have understanding of like the extra cost. Like, for example, if your whole property was to be destroyed, the removal cost, the replacement of certain things, labor at the moment, as you will know, is really expensive. So you go from thinking that something is going to cost you 100 grand to 400 grand. So that goes around like that knowledge. If people don't have the knowledge, they don't know what they're meant to be doing. So I think as a industry as a whole, whether it's health insurance, property insurance, we need to provide that knowledge for the people, and it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be done in a way that is easy to read. Because let's face it, a lot of these days you will go into a policy wording or a website, and if I can understand it, and I work in a company, and we've had that in the past in several companies that I work for, that the people that work in the company is struggling to understand, like how will the consumer understand what their policy wording, says.
What evening is exactly, and the thing you mentioned a little bit earlier, just specifically around property, around kind of the growth in labor costs, as well as the appreciation of property values, and then folks going through kind of refinances but not having to kind of update any of their details through that refinance process. And so actually kind of what they're insuring the property for is vastly different 15 years later after a couple of refinances, with no change of any kind of total value, becomes a really big issue. I think customer experience is a really important part of that. I think if you going to look at the buying journeys today within insurance, I think generally we don't do a very good job of explaining to the customer what's needed and what the potential gaps are there. Is that something you'd agree with? Like, do you think that's a fair kind of representation in terms of the you mentioned around education? How do we get that education within customer journeys to actually inform a customer what they don't know and probably shouldn't know? I suppose it's our job to let them know that.
Exactly. Like a big example of that is, for example, 1 week of, rent default or covering for rent could be the price of a policy. So let's say that you're renting your property for $300. If the tenant was to leave that property without paying, the amount of money that you're going to be behind on your payments, on your mortgage payments. And when you think about it, if you were to take one of those weeks' rents and pay a policy, you'll be covered so much. So sometimes it's that understanding that you might think, it is expensive, but then how much are you going to be saving if something goes wrong? So yeah, it's all that knowledge, and we do a lot of work with our partners in terms of like property managers and also brokers, by educating them, because they're the ones at the forefront with the clients coming to them for insurance. And someone like a property manager, for example, knows exactly that when things go wrong, they go really wrong. You've seen those crazy houses destroyed, and, people never paying their rent. I mean, that's a reality that happens. And even though everyone is becoming a little bit more restrictive in the type of landlords that they're actually getting through the door, you just don't know. It's the unknown. And that's the thing with insurance, is like we're protecting you for what will go wrong. We don't know if ever will, but having that peace of mind is something that they should all have.
Yeah, and you mentioned there about property managers, and obviously that kind of sits within your niche, I suppose, of partnerships. We think a lot about partnerships and discuss it a lot internally around how important they are, I think, to education, to driving growth, to working with partners that have different accesses to different customer groups. But it's often difficult to build partnerships. There's getting alignment of like vested interests is really hard, but it's something really important. And if you can do it, if you can integrate and work with the right partners, then kind of your value proposition can grow exponentially in terms of kind of how it can be shared with different groups. But I'm sure you kind of see in with your role with kind of being a GM and making budgetary calls of like where to put spend and kind of how you kind of filter spend into different parts of the business in terms of partnerships and growth and sales and kind of underwriting. And so how do you think about that? How do you think about partnerships and getting over those budgetary hurdles to kind of make good partnerships that are going to be great for the customer?
Yeah, well, we do a big assessment because obviously you have so many people knocking on your door and going, "Can we be partners?" And if you give me this much money, we could do this amazing conference that it's going to bring all these people. Unfortunately, you can't say yes to all of them. Some of them we see a lot of value, and then we will go and go, this makes sense. Let's do that. But it's all about assessment. Like we prepare our budget, and we're very good at kind of like understanding like where is our money going. There's a lot of budget on that marketing side of things, on the sales side of things, because the people that we have in distribution are people that spend majority of the time on the road. They build really good relationships with their property managers, and we try to build those relationships with people that match our values as well. We don't want to be dealing with just anyone. We want to make sure that we have like that open discussions if something goes wrong, that we can support each other in that, in those instances. And it has happened a lot in the time, especially when you have difficult claims or issues with tenants. So I think it's important definitely to have really good budgets for that to happen. But I think the biggest success that we've had in our company is the amount of work that the BDMs do. And the relationships that they've been able to build through this year. So there's a lot of trust in there. Some of our BDMs are people who are also like, skilled to run training sessions for property managers. So they have that knowledge. So it's almost like a relationship where, they're giving us something, but we're also giving them a lot of support and they're learning something from us. And I think people really value those relationships, and it's not just a business relationship. And this is how we deal in our whole company. It's about like the human side of things. Like it's not only your BDM contacting you because you want more policies. It's also like how you go and how's your family. So we do have a very, very different way of dealing with the market, I'll say.
Super, Indra. Humans love interacting with humans, right? We're kind of social animals at our core.
Absolutely.
And so hanging out and being amenable and those kind of things, building like a movement or building a community around your brand and your people is important, isn't it? And so
very much so.
And I think you just mentioned there are a few things that really focus on honesty, authenticity, kind of sharing, transparency. I think they're the things that make a really like effective partnership. So I think if you go in with not well-adjusted expectations, then it's doomed to fail. And so kind of being open, transparent, and authentic, I think really kind of sets you up for kind of meaningful long-term relationships.
Yeah, and we try to stay away from dealing with partners and that are I'm in mine kind of thinking, like it's all about me, what I can get out of this relationship. We want to work with partners who are willing to support us. Not only like, for example, just to give you an example now, we're dealing with building company that is supporting us on the claim side. But these guys are giving us way more than that. They're providing training sessions for our teams, on different types of construction types. We are also supporting them on their conferences. So we're all winning from these relationships. And I think that's the key for us, like working with people that we could happily sit in a dinner table and just have a laugh and have a dinner. Like we don't want to be, internally we're not like that at all. Like our executive team is very not egotistic at all, and I think that's why we work really well. We can have very robust discussions, and then the next moment we're all fine. So I feel really, really happy that I'm part of a business that lives, the company values, but also my own values.
That's awesome. That segues really nicely into leadership in terms of your own values. And I know that you've been a pretty big part of a lot of maybe transformation of your current business and transformation across the business from a cultural, technology, operations, a bunch of different things. And when you think about your leadership style and when you think about and maybe the things that you impact, I'm really interested to try and understand kind of how you find like developing like diverse leadership really helps to kind of foster that culture of change. And how do you personally think about kind of prioritizing kind of D&I, diversity inclusion in the organization, and what kind of knock-on impact you've found that's had on the organizational change that you've implemented?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of companies are doing a lot of work on the D&I side of things, but I think a lot of them are also missing the mark. I think it's really easy to get a badge and say we're a diversity and inclusive company, but then when you're part of those companies, they're not living that. I think it's important for me in this company that we all live the same, like we're the same values, and diversity and inclusion is a reality. Because we do have an organization that is very diverse. We have people from 28 different ethnic backgrounds, which is huge. And, it's something that we're really proud of. But once you have the diversity, what do you do with that, right? Because I think that's where a lot of companies get stuck. We're a diverse group, and then how do we make an inclusive workforce? Because having different people is not enough. We need to build a society and a company where people feel like they belong. So belonging for us is a massive thing. So that's something that we really concentrate on, like that people feel like they're not just working with a colleague, they're working with a mate. If that person is sad, is depressed, we hear about it, like someone cares. So in terms of that, we do a lot of discussions internally about the importance of psychological safety, on the importance of like why leadership matters, no matter in which role you are. I mean, we have a lot of leaders who don't have the title in a company, but they're great, and so it's like, we also concentrate a lot on making sure that the people that are moving into those leadership roles, they get the right training, because I think that's something that happens a lot, where people assume that if you're really technical at something, you'll be an amazing leader. And trust me, dealing with people is a full-time job, and it's quite full on. So that's also something that we've done a lot of training around emotional intelligence, psychological safety. We bring external people coming into the business, assessing the way that our business is run. That's been so beneficial for us, like for people to kind of go, oh, okay, like I have that awareness of who I am. I have that awareness of how I need to self-regulate as well, which is a massive thing. So, and then it becomes just like a flown down effect. Once your leaders are really equipped, everyone else kind of starts following. And then when someone doesn't actually stay in that line, it's really easy to see. And the rest of the people go, yeah, you're out, like you're not part of this. So yeah,
like an extension of that, like we're kind of similar. We have like a super diverse group in the company. And one thing that we found really, it kind of showed itself when we realized we hadn't kind of addressed it. And then when we met it head on, was communication. And having such a diverse group in terms of from kind of ethnic and kind of cultural backgrounds and different geographies, they all had different communication styles. And it wasn't that their style was wrong. It was just different. How they wanted to give information and receive information was just in a different style, whether it was kind of subtle and kind of caring, or it was kind of more direct and blunt. It wasn't for any other reason, but that's kind of how they kind of communicated, and understanding the individuals and how they like to communicate was a really eye-opening exercise for us, of like as a group learning how to kind of how you would expect somebody else to be receiving the information that you're trying to give. And we found that super effective, which I think is along the same lines as kind of you're talking about there.
Yeah, it works really well. I mean, for a long time, when we were starting kind of like rebuilding our brand, internally as well, like two companies that were merging together, communication was a big thing. And we realized that, the more that we understand the other person, the better that we're going to communicate, but you need to know where they're coming from as well. I think a lot of people get really caught up in that common sense. And to me, common sense doesn't exist. I mean, my common sense from Chile or the things that are normal for me because of the way that I was raised, they will be completely uncommon for someone else. So I always say to people, like, keep an open mind, listen to the other person, try to understand where they're coming from, and find a point of contact, because there's always something that will unite you to someone else. But yeah, even with the communication piece is something that we're doing a lot of work. We have a training and development manager internally, and she's really kind of like putting a framework of, what does become an email? What is a Teams call? What is, because we want to make sure that everyone gets a bit of everything. Because even then, like, people want to receive communication in a different way.
They do.
Yeah.
And as part of that, you built a very diverse business. And as part of doing that, there's a lot of recruitment, a lot of like recruiting talent. Talent is really the heartbeat of any organization, and when we're thinking about building the future insurer, what does that future insurer look like? And it's really a group of people all focused on trying to kind of make insurance more attractive and deliver it to the customer. Retaining talent is hard, finding the right talent is hard, and definitely in a kind of hard insurance environment where the battle for talent is already real. And so can you maybe talk to me about how you've within the business approached development? I know it's something that when we speak to execs and a bunch of GMs, they struggle with this. They really struggle with finding the right talent, and attracting the right talent into our industry is something that is really critical, I think, in terms of for the future. And so can you talk a little bit about how you've approached that, and maybe how it's different to maybe others that you've encountered?
Look, for the last 2 years, it's been extremely hard to recruit people. I'll say that there's not a lot of people out in the market. So, even to this day, when I'm looking for a role, I need to go to 4 or 5 recruiters, and I'm lucky if I get a person through that. So there's definitely an issue. As we know, immigration is being cut, and that has put a lot of pressure in a lot of industries, including ours. So what we've done for the last year is we've got a lot of like people with a lot of knowledge within our company. And we know that we can use that knowledge if we have a really good induction program. So we've actually recently hired people that have no insurance background, and we kind of like integrating them into our business, because we know that if the person has the right attitude and they're willing to work hard, they can actually build a very successful career. We've got a couple of really good success stories. Of people who came in, with a university degree, and now they're a team leader of an underwriting team. I mean, they never expected that. They were just doing an admin role. So for us, it's like really understanding the people that are coming through, like what kind of skills we're looking for. We want people that really matches our values. We want people that are easy to work with. I think sometimes people just look at the resumes and that's all they look at. And I go, look beyond that. Like a resume, anyone can put a nice resume together. Like when it comes to recruiting, we've been successful because we look at other things. We look at those, I hate to call them soft skills, but it's the actual soft skills that are so important. Yeah.
How do you share your values? Because there's something
everywhere.
And how do you? I'd love to hear that. When you say how do you share them?
Yeah. Look, we have like our social directors who organize functions and do all of that, and then we try to align them with our values, whatever function it is. When we do conferences, a conference is going to be like, for example, this year is going to be a certain value. So that conference will be all around the value that we picked. We talk about our values all the time. We actually, instead of like when we do management meetings, for example, instead of saying, I don't know, like we're better together, just to give you one value, we're better together, then someone in the claims department will provide feedback as to how we're doing to be better together. Like what kind of training are you doing for your staff? How you liaising with the companies externally. So our values are the basis of everything we do. From our relationship, internal and external. So people are very, very across what they mean and how we should be accomplishing them.
And how did you put them together? Sorry, I'm going deep on this because it's something that I know a lot of people struggle with. And so I'm really interested in how you kind of set it up.
Well, for us, we wanted to do something different. I've worked for large corporations, insurance corporations, and every time that I started in those roles, I was given a bunch of values. And I was like, and you need to live by them. And I was like, oh, okay. Over time, you go, okay, I get it. I need to live by them. But the reality is, what really makes sense is to involve your teams, to involve the people. So we had a lot of sessions last year where we actually created our own values. So we had a whole company just creating what was important for us. And I think that's why it has so much, like, people are really buying them, because when we see them, we created a brand as well. So we have our own internal brand. So our values actually have a proper marketing design. And, like when people look at our backgrounds, they will see this company that we work under, which is the Proplab, which, entails the two companies. So it's not just a job that we went and, okay, we need 5 values. Let's do integrity because everyone does it. No, for us, it was like, we definitely don't want that. We want our own values that are real and that we can actually commit to live those. And, through the marketing that we've done, obviously, or our intranet's got our colors, it's got our values, it's got everything. We have a mascot. That's the way we live our values. And we also, whenever we recognize a colleague, we allocate a certain amount of money every year for all of our colleagues. And then when they decide to recognize one of them, they will recognize them based on those values. And then they will have a spiel in there saying, this is the reason why you own it, for example, and I want to give you a recognition on that.
That's so great. And how do you then translate those values into your customers, so your customers then understand your values, and versus just buying insurance from you because it's the cheapest or best coverage or whatever it is, they really associate with you as a brand? How do you translate those cultural values into your customers?
I think that the way that insurance is evolving, I think it's not like it used to be in the past. In the past it was like someone, this person on a suit selling you something that you will never be able to use. Times have changed and people really want to relate to brands, and they want to relate from an aspect that it lives their own values even. So, you will find it today that people will not buy certain products because they don't align with their values. So we try to make sure that those values are really present with, when our BDMs are on the road, they're talking about how we are as a company, how do we deal with them. We also live those values every time that a customer calls us when they're in a situation of distress, for example, when it comes to a claims period, like how do we show empathy? How do we show care? And all of that. So there's many things that we're doing in terms of charities that align as well with our products. Like Street Smart, for example, is the one that we have at the moment, and we've done a bit of work with them. And Street Smart is all about like people who can, rent a property, but by the time they can rent a property, they don't have the money to have anything inside. So how do we support them so that they can buy a couch, they can buy, the things that they need? My idea for the future, and it's something that we're working at the moment, is that we become one of those companies that people align because we're doing the right thing. We're caring for our customers and we're providing them something that is, that the customer not only thinks, I'm just buying a policy, I'm actually buying a policy that is going to help someone that is living through homelessness, for example, because, in the future, we might look at, providing percentages to that, those charities, things that we're reviewing at the moment,
That's so great. I think living it every day is important, isn't it? Like, not just setting some values and then putting them in a cupboard and walking away, but like living them every day through the actions of your staff and how you deliver your service and kind of who you associate with. I think it really speaks to how you really think about this, which is great.
Yeah, and also sorry.
No, you go, Marie. Go. You keep going.
I was just going to say, also, we're living in a society that is very different. There's a lot of mental health issues, amongst our staff members, amongst, our clients. And we need to create that awareness as well for them. Like, it's okay not to be okay. And how do we support you through that journey as well? Because we want everyone in our team to succeed. for us, for me, like the biggest thing is like, let's play as well. It's insurance. I know it's serious, but let's have fun while we're doing it. And so playing curiosity is something that is massive.
Yeah, super important. I'd like to take a little step left, and I'd like to go into tech, because I think about it a lot. I love this world. I think it's something that I think about a lot, and I'm sure you do too. But it's something that is, there's a lot of different parts to it, and adopting new technologies, I think sometimes you can do just because it's the new shiny thing, but sometimes it's just important to think about what's the use case and actually what's the technology you're looking to adopt. But when we think about the future insurer, when we think about the insurer of tomorrow and the technologies that are going to be adopted and used, how do you think about within your business the technologies you're looking to adopt, how they're going to impact your business? Is there anything that you're super excited about, anything you're kind of scared of not really sure about this as a technology and being a bit nascent to adopt? I'd love to just think here on a really macro level how you're thinking about adopting these kind of technologies.
I think we're in a really exciting position. In the past, I remember companies will project something for the future, start building a program even, and then by the time it was finished, it was obsolete. Mm-hmm. I think now those days are gone. Like everything is moving so fast that we need to make sure that we're constantly understanding what's in the market. I feel that collaboration is a massive thing in this industry when it comes to insurance these days. Is not how it used to be, but now there's the need of collaborating with other companies to provide the end product to our customers is happening more and more. Building APIs, creating bots, contacting different providers, instead of us recreating the wheel, if there is something really good out there that we can see benefit, why not look into that? In our company, we have a transformation team, and that's been a massive thing since it was created. So we have the leader of technology who has, a couple of business analysts under his wing, transformation people. We have someone now being just given the role of looking after APIs, AI, bots. Wow. So his whole role is that. So the good thing is that it is working really nicely because a lot of the time, the operational side of things, the people on the ground are seeing the problems. Mm-hmm. And in the past, you used to see like this really big distance between IT and the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Now it's quite kind of different. Like we do hold a lot of meetings with our operation managers where we have a pipeline of things that we need to do. So we have that pipeline of, development on systems, but also we have another pipeline that is, can we work with these companies? Can we build an API that is going to make it, make the service quicker for the customers? So there's a lot of projects that we have in the pipeline when it comes to claims as well. We're rebuilding our claims portals. With the underwriting portals as well, we take on the feedback of our clients. We're making changes. From a marketing point of view, that's a massive thing that we're doing as well. So we're rebranding. We look at our personas. Who is the client that we're targeting? What do they need? What do they want? Because there's no point of us creating products and systems that don't align to what they want. So that's been a massive piece in the last couple of months.
Have you found having a specific transformation part of the business that sounds like it's a little cross-functional as well as like plumbed into the core business? Have you found having individuals that sole focus is looking at those new pieces of kind of what's, and in corporate terms, Horizon 1, 2, and 3, in terms of what are these things that we're doing today, what should we be doing soon, and what's kind of far into the future? Have you found having the specific individuals and teams focused on that really beneficial versus it just being part of, I guess, a small part of somebody's role in terms of BAU? Have you found a shift with how you've thought about those things?
Yeah. So recently, I would say 3 weeks ago, we actually appointed, to give you an idea, in the underwriting team, like an underwriting analyst, and also in the claims team, a claims analyst. So their roles is to, look at numbers, look at statistics. We want to be a data-driven company. For many years, I worked with companies where it's more about like subjective information. Oh, maybe we write this much, maybe. So I want us to be able to look at numbers and then make decisions based on that. And the good thing about these people working on those roles is that they understand what the struggles are or the things that need to be done. And then they liaise with the transformation team to go, how do we make it happen? So it's like that link of like, people who work there, who are doing all the research, and then the transformation team going, this is when things can be done, and then progressing them that way.
That's great. Having a link between those teams sounds like a very a good idea. Sometimes these transformation teams can be left on an island a little bit and kind of work in their own little worlds, but actually kind of don't understand and see the day-to-day things that the business needs. And so can be a real like a friction or like a.
And they're probably like the most sociable transformation team that I've ever seen as well. They're helping us to support a lot of the functions and that, which is really good. It's like what we're trying to build, Nigel, in our company is a very engaged, like a community. I see it as a community. For me, like, people don't like using the family term, and that's fine. But for me, it's a community. It's like we're all here together. We're all, going for the same goal. You work in claims, you work in underwriting, but at one point we all cross paths and we need to support each other. And I've been quite happy to see that the new staff members that we've, that have joined our company, that's the feeling they've got. Like they've never, a lot of them mentioned, we've never worked in a place where people are happy and they talk to each other and they care about each other. And these people coming from a lot of corporates, environments. And I never want us to become that.
Yeah, I love that. And that speaks a little bit to kind of the next part of this kind of transformation, and that's efficiency. We've seen a pretty hard market for a little while now. I know there's when we speak with customers, operational efficiency is a theme. It's something, obviously, people care about growth, but also care about operational efficiency. And I think that will continue to be really critical, especially when we're thinking about implementing technologies that can increase some operational efficiency, but choosing the right tools and technologies, I think, is important depending on your size of business and what you're trying to do. Can you maybe talk to how you've thought about that, how you think about operational efficiency today, maybe some of the technologies that you're using and some of the impacts that you've seen from it?
Yeah, well, recently, a lot of our day-to-day IT is being kind of moved on to our shareholder. So that has given us a lot more freedom to actually concentrate on these bigger pieces and also like, being able to look at the partnerships of new entrants in the market or people that want to do business with us. I'll say from an operational point of view, is like, how do we use AI to remove a lot of that admin side of things? How do we make sure that people are not there spending the day typing a document that can be done, in a different way? So I think we still need to do a lot of education around AI, because I think people obviously think that AI is going to take all of our jobs. But the reality, the way we see it, is it's going to take the jobs that we don't really want to do. I'd rather have my underwriters, concentrating on being very technical. The same with our claims teams, as opposed to having to be doing data entry. So I think there's a bit of educational part in there, but I think that's going to be a massive help from a strategic point of view. Remove all of that, and then we can upscale as well, because our company continues to grow, and we can't have 100 people. We just need to make sure that those tasks are
Are there any particular tools that you've used that you found really helpful? Is there any specific tools that you've gone, actually this has had a meaningful impact, or maybe some that you're testing with?
Look, at the moment, it's all in its testing stage.
Yep.
So bots obviously have worked really well for us. But so they're still in testing. We think that it's going to have a big effect on our, we're also really good at reviewing as well in terms of like operational side. Is in an underwriting world, there's a lot of referrals, and that creates a lot of, people are chasing a quote and you have to go through the referrals. So it's how do we make sure that we're actually referring only the things that needs to be referred. So it's reviewing all of that all the time as well, and making sure that if we approve a risk 100 times, why do we keep seeing it? We want a really smooth, transaction for our clients. So that's something that we're going to be concentrating on a lot.
Yeah, I think yeah, I agree completely on the AI front, both on the more traditional AI side and then on the generative AI side. We're spending a bit of time there. We're having a lot of conversations around it, and we're seeing it moving from the testing phase into the production phase. I think kind of enterprise at the moment and a little bit behind consumer there of and that's fair enough. Like in terms of seeing where it works best within the organization, where you're going to get maximum benefit from it. Obviously, there's some hesitation around security and data and a bunch of those pieces that are really, really important to consider. But I think some of those things are starting to be solved now. And so I think the rest of this year and into 25, I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see yourselves and other agencies really start to put these kind of tools and technologies to work. And I think those that don't, I think are going to really struggle. I think they'll
absolutely
really start to see their cost to serve go up compared to competitors. I think how quickly customers will get quotes, whether you're intermediated via brokers, and if a broker gets a quote within 3 minutes versus half a day, I think who's gonna get the business. And so I think there's going to be a lot of those kind of things seen over this kind of next 18 months or so that will really start to kind of put pressure on folks that aren't starting to bring these technologies into their companies.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why agencies are doing so well, and the corporates not so much these days, is because we can make changes really quickly, and we can adapt a lot quicker as well. We don't have dated systems, we have refreshed systems that we're continuously working on. So that makes a huge difference. But I think and I think the message for me is I don't want people to, obviously, like you mentioned, there's a lot of things that we need to make sure that are right for us to use AI in the best way possible. But at the same time, I just hope that people get out of that mentality of like, immigration is going to take my jobs. And now we're going into AI is going to take my jobs. That's not the case. There's a job for everyone.
There's always a worry.
It just changes. It's the same as with the Industrial Revolution, right? Machines are going to take our roles. Well, there will be different roles. It's not a bad thing.
Roles just evolve. Yeah, roles evolve.
They just
evolve. Exactly right. Now, I know the theme here is the future insurance. So I want to kind of maybe wrap in thinking about that around kind of what the future insurer will look like. And I'm really interested to hear from you. Like, what do you envisage as the future insurer to look like? Well, how do you see community-based insurance shaping the industry? How do you see the customer experience? I'd love to maybe just give a couple of minutes of how you're seeing in 10 years what that future insurer would look like.
I'm hoping that in 10 years, we're going to be able to change the perspective of people about us, about our industry. I think it's still an industry that people hear and they go, oh, you work in insurance. Okay, you take my money. I really want us to create like I mentioned, a community. And I think it's happening with a lot of companies more and more. Companies that are built with people who have empathy and that understand the end client. So that would be my hope for the future. I think collaboration is something that I'm seeing more and more, which means that we're changing, because in the past it was pretty much, it's my company, I don't want to deal with anyone else. They might be able to see my things. I think we're a lot more open these days to collaborate with different, partners, companies, brokerages, IT developers. And I think that's going to be the biggest shift. I think we also need to start really, really understanding how we're going to make this industry an industry where our children want to join. And how do we do that? Like, how do we provide this information in the market or in schools that there is an opportunity for you to build a really good career, a well-paid career through this industry? So I think also more knowledge around global warming and also how that is going to impact us. I think a lot of people sometimes don't realize that our premiums will go up, but they go up even, if there was a catastrophe in the US, will still affect us, right? So I think knowledge, very important, building the new generation of people coming into the industry with the understanding that the new generation is very different. They don't want to wait 20 years to get a role. So how do we evolve all of our practices? Something that we also do internal, Nigel, we have an organigram, like a 3-year organigram, where we actually look at our staff members and we go, this person's got these skills, and we can really see them progressing nicely into these roles. We communicate that with them as well. Things obviously sometimes might change, but we've had great success. Like in the last 2 years, we've promoted internally 40% of our staff.
Wow,
so that's not something that you'll see,
every day. Maria, thank you so much. I think the future is bright with people like you, with the fostering culture and innovation like you are, and the business that you're obviously helping build. I think the future of insurance is bright. I'm excited to be part of it. I'm excited to kind of have folks like you kind of partnering and working together, or like as a whole industry, driving the industry forward. So thank you so much. Thanks for what you do day to day, and thanks for your time. Thanks for your time today. It's been
thank you so much
really,
for your invitation,
really
Nigel. I really enjoyed this discussion. It's been great.
Thank you. And everybody, I hope you really enjoyed the episode. You can watch the video. You can jump onto our YouTube channel. If you'd like to hear more from general insurance leaders who are pushing the boundaries of insurance, make sure you do check out all of the other episodes. But thank you again, Maria. I really appreciate the time, and good luck for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All the best, Nigel.